Hey, Neuroside. Hello. Hello, hello. Okay, let's get started. Pity you had to miss Zigtoberfest again. Yeah, that was unfortunate. But Neuroside. So here's how you can redeem yourself. I don't remember where you live, but I don't remember if you're how close or far you are from Nuremberg. But there's a Z Day there. I'll be there, November 29th. Zig 1.0, when, whatever your answer, we don't trust it. You can trust my answer actually fully. My answer will be 100% correct. The answer is it's going to be ready when it's ready. We don't have a deadline. Don't let a number dictate what you should or should you not try. Obviously, a pre 1.0 language is going to be more unstable than a post 1.0 language. But depending on your needs, it might be that Zig will be ready before or not. That is an evaluation that you have to make. So it's on you to get the stuff right. And we do not have a specific deadline because we have a list of things that we want to go through, and it takes the time that it takes. And the list also grows and shrinks over time. So, 2.5 hours from here too. Oof. I see. I hope it would have been closer than that. But yeah. You just like breaking API, we know it. Well, I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to work on something like some kind of system. It's tough to get APIs right. So it takes time. And Zig is a very complicated project. There's a lot of surface. So sometimes it's just impossible to get things right first try, and it takes time. And the problem is, what do you do when you figure out that actually things should have been different? You don't do it. You just leave it there with this optimal state. No, like we are basically making good use of the fact that Zig is a pre 1.0 language to change things when we don't like them, and to learn stuff. So let's see. I was at the mineral fair. Okay. Oh, so you chose rocks over Zig, huh? Is that it? Sort of issues? God damn it. So I'll say it was a nice event. It was a nice progression from the last time. Bigger, more people. Talks were nice. There was the setup overall of the conference was good. We still had Spezi, despite being more people. Spezi was still available to us. We didn't have pretzels, unfortunately, but understandably. As I said already to David, I think they should start thinking of if they can figure out a way of starting to accept money, so they can provide some of these features, but by having attendees pay for them. New concurrency solution for Zig looks so incredibly nice. It is. It is. Still some kinks to work out. It's easy actually to get confused. Like discussions on Zulip, I feel that they slide into confusion territory very fast. But I'm optimistic that by working on proper vocabulary and like starting to write down formalizations, we can stop sleeping, basically. Yeah, don't worry, Candy Boober. I get it. Not too fond of the new reader writer API. Well, the new reader writer API, I think, has two issues. One is an actual issue for real, which is that different writer or reader implementations give different names to the interface. Some of them allow you to use the interface. Like for some of them, the interface is a field in the implementation. For some others, it's a function that you're supposed to call because because that implementation, when created for a given OS, works differently than other OSs, and so the function accessing the interface through the function is the one unified manner of getting that, but you can't always reach for a field. And sometimes they're called readers, sometimes they're called writers, sometimes they're called interface. It's annoying. So I would say that this is a real problem. And I think that with use over time, naming schemes will become more consistent, or in any case, there will be like a way of doing it that everybody agrees on. I think the other half of the problem is that previously we were passing around reader-writer implementations, and those were acting as interfaces. So you create a file reader, you create a socket reader, and they're the same. Well, they're different implementations, right? But since we were accepting any type on anything that used a reader, you could just pass one of them and you were fine. Now it's different because now the implementation and the interface are decoupled. So you get the good thing where you can, a function that accepts a reader now accepts an actual reader interface, which is one concrete type. But now you have, from a reader implementation, you need to grab the reader interface, which we did not have to do before. So that plus buffering everywhere, or rather the ability to put buffering everywhere, makes the setup more complex. But that's that comes with the territory. Like that's how it has to be if you use runtime polymorphism. So we do it already with allocators. When you grab an allocator, you make the allocator interface, and then you plug the interface an allocator implementation, and then you plug the interface from it, and then you pass around the interface, and it's kind of the same thing. If you don't mind my asking, what do you and Andrew think of Jonathan Blow's Jai Lang? Well, I'll speak for myself. I don't think that me and Andrew are particularly wildly different in our opinion on Jai, but I will still speak for myself. It's a language, it exists. To me, it's mostly uncontroversial. The development history of Jai has some, I don't know, shadows in it, as in if you find on my YouTube channel, there's like an old interview that I did with one of the people that used to work on Jai and then got fired, and then another guy got fired and sued by Jonathan Blow because this guy was also working on an open source programming language while working at the same company, which seemed unnecessary. And in general, Jonathan Blow has been bitchy about people stealing his ideas, which is, I don't know. It's a meh take on this whole endeavor of making a programming language. The reason why I don't, the biggest question mark for me with regards to Jai is whether they will be able to make it work once they open source it. Because, so first of all, will they open source it? I think there's Jonathan Blow on record saying that he will eventually open source it. But, you never know until that happens. And once he does, will they be able to deal with it correctly? Because, once you open source something, you start getting a ton of issues. You start to get a ton of PRs. You need to know how to deal with this stuff because it's not immediately obvious. And my impression is the fact that they have shied away from going through this process for a long time now, providing, they have their reasons for that, which they have stated, which I do not agree with. But in any case, they have their reasons. But I think it's like kind of inevitable. If they want to open source this thing, then they will have, whether they like it or not, learn how to deal with it, with the open source process, with building in public. That's the thing, more precisely. And to me, it's not obvious whether they will be able to do that well enough. And I think that that's going to be one of those things that makes or breaks the language, because ultimately a programming language is one of the most social things that you can do in software development. And you need to get the social aspect right, because that shapes your ecosystem. Now, I get it that game developers and in general, the people that do, I would say, in general, people that do lower level development, especially game developers, I would say even more so people that follow the Jonathan Blow's Keys Moratori's philosophy, they will be more self-reliant than others, so they will be less affected by the state of the ecosystem. But still, I think that that's gonna be a factor. And I don't know. I think this is the biggest question mark. Other than that, I don't know. It's a language. It has features that, depending on your taste, you will find more or less suitable to do work. And yeah, that's it. At first, it was intimidating. I'm guessing we're back to talking about the reader-writer API. But after using it quite extensively, it's a godsend. I can promise you guys, I can 100% promise you, the same will be with async await. Async and await will be, as long as you remember async await in all programming languages, you will be potentially scared because you have PTSD from other languages that have async and await keywords. But I promise you that once you free yourself from those chains, you will find that async and await in Zig is also going to be the same thing, where it's just there to help you, and it should fairly rarely hinder you in what you're trying to achieve. Have I spoken about this? Not yet. Well, that's what I was doing right now. So far, I think the discussion has been mostly about reader and writer. I sometimes even feel like just doing a direct syscall instead of doing this whole thing. Yeah, this is not interface. This is reader, but yeah. Fair. But be aware, or writer, yeah, whatever. Be aware that in the future this is not going to be a syscall, right? In the future, you want to go through the system, because the system is what will automatically allow you to use the correct IO primitive that integrates with whatever IO implementation the application is using. Reader and writer become part of the IO interface as it happened to go. I'm not sure how to answer the question. This, to me, reads as a malformed question. Reader and writer are, on one end, an API surface that shapes how you communicate IO operations. So it has stuff like, write some bytes, write all. Now we have new ones like we have splat, we have write vector, etc., etc. So that's part of what makes the IO reader/writer interface. The other half of it is that it does integrate with the IO interface. So readers and writers do use IO internally. It was not shown here in this code snippet in this comment, but you have to provide an IO implementation when you create a reader or a writer. So yeah. Well, Nebula, if you're interested, there's a first. It landed on Master Branch a few days ago. It's not complete. It has bugs, probably need. It certainly has at least some bugs, for sure. But so if you download a unstable build of Zig or you build a compiler yourself, you will be able to play with it. I can show you one thing that I was playing with. So this was a discussion. This was a discussion on. This was a discussion on Zulip, where basically, in a moment of what I believe is confusion, there was a discussion of whether this should deadlock or not. The example provided was a little bit more complicated, but simplifying it a little bit more, which does help show that what the actual answer should be. But there was the discussion of whether this should be async or concurrent. For example, talking about bugs, right now, the threaded implementation deadlocks if you put CPU count equals 1 and then launch an async thing. This is, in my opinion, a obvious bug. I think I managed to convince everybody in that discussion, thankfully, that this should not be the case. This should not deadlock. But it does work if you. So let me show you not working. So this is sync.zig. Zig1 is a build of the compiler that has the IO stuff merged. So you can see that this test does not make any progress. If I change CPU count to 2, it works. But guess what? Let me think if this works with CPU count 2. Actually, this might work with CPU count 2, right? Even if you double it. Yeah, this would work, but you can still make something intertwined enough that where you can still deadlock with something simple. But this should not be the case. This will also work with CPU count 1 if you put concurrent in here. But concurrent you must try, because concurrent can fail. So this will work, but that's because concurrent causes oversubscription to happen. It spawns a new thread, even if we put CPU count equals 1. So this current implementation is worked, but it's only the threaded implementation. If you use the IO ORing or the KQ implementation, it should be fine. So we can actually do this. This should also go here. the Q is uppercase? Wait, I'm not hallucinating this, am I? There we go. Oh, I think I know what it is. I know what it is. It's that KQ is the concrete implementation, but then we don't select this. We select something like event. What's it called? Yeah, evented. Okay, we select evented, and then we get IO ring on Linux, KQ on macOS. Okay, so let's call it evented. Three arguments found one. Okay, what do you want? Oh, I cannot go to definition, right? Because I have because I need to tell ZLS to use Zig1. Okay, well we can go figure this out on our own. It wants it wants a pointer to self. It wants GPA and it wants options. Okay. So GPA options, it's fine, and then evented like this. Oh, right. I forgot how to zig for a moment. There we go. Are we happy now? Error union is ignored. Oh, you also have to try it. Understandable. Oh, no panic to do. God damn it. Oh, sleep is to do. Sleep was never implemented. Well, you know what? This example also works without sleep. It's fine. Yeah, this one does not deadlock. The sleep doesn't do much. Anyway. Yeah, you can make most of these scenarios work by interrupting blockers and carefully handling e-interrupt, but it's just a pain to get exactly right. That is happening already. E-interrupt is already used to check for cancellation before trying again. And when something gets actively canceled, that causes in blocking IO implementations to send a signal to all threads. So long story short, this already exists. But the fact that this exists, but even though this does exist, this implementation right now, the threaded implementation, unfortunately, this does not integrate with running other tasks. It's used for cancellation, but it doesn't integrate with running other tasks. So the problem with threaded is that when it sees this io.async, it tries to see if there's another, well, it doesn't even try. Basically what it does is that it queues up this task on a queue, and if there's another thread active that can pick it up, it will right away. Awesome. But if there isn't another thread, then it stays stuck in the queue. And then once we await here, we block the thread, but this block, how can I say, it doesn't free the thread. We don't yield. This thread remains stuck because threaded is using blocking IO, and in general, it's it doesn't have the ability to yield, because for it to have the ability to yield, then we're talking about green threads, because it needs to swap the active task. Like, you know, either green threads or stackless coroutines, but we don't have stackless coroutines, so it would have to be green threads in our case. But this is not what this implementation is doing. This is purposely the implementation where it's blocking IO and multi-threading. The problem is that blocking IO and multi-threading does not have the ability to yield, and so this thing gets stuck. While in any other implementation, what happens is that the await not only stops execution of this task, but it also yields the thread. And so by yielding the thread, we will have a queue of tasks that contains this, potentially, and then we execute it. So how do you fix this for blocking for IO.threaded? There's probably more than one approach, but let's say the most straightforward approach is to not queue up tasks, and instead to either have a concept where you either actively take one free thread, like imagine that you have a linked list of threads that are doing nothing. Either you pull one from the list and you assign it right away execution of this task, or if you can't find an active a free thread to use, because maybe you have CPU count equals 1, which means that you'll never find another free thread because CPU count is 1 and you are 1. In that case, then it would need to run this function immediately, which it can because async is allowed to do that. So I think that needs to be considered a condition where you quote unquote are out of resources, and so you need to run this thing immediately. That's not how it's implemented correctly currently, and so that's why it deadlocks, even though it shouldn't. And this part was a little bit unclear because when we were talking about formalizing this stuff, we always did it from kind of like the inverse perspective. And we never focused on this property much because it's actually something that you get for free from every implementation except this one. Like all other implementations, when blocking, they yield. But this one just blocks, doesn't yield shit. So that's why it's unfortunate that this was discovered at the presentation. But in my mind, this is all pretty clear at this point. Let's see. I personally think it's nice to have a lot of things passed as parameters, but I know from my immediate peers that is something they find annoying. I'm kind of scared that at some point there will be another third parameter that is commonly going to be passed around. Has this been talked about internally at all? No. Or something where it's just deal with it. I think it's a deal with it kind of situation, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the third parameter could be, but you for your code, you can make some, you can stuff these things in a self parameter, and you just pass around a pointer to self, so you don't have to pass all the arguments. But I don't know, your peers, they just need to level up. I'm saying this semi-seriously, not fully seriously. Anyway. What is up with the try keyword, and will there ever be a time where you won't have to use try? I don't know. What is up with the try keyword? Try what? What is up with the try keyword? I don't know what is up with the try keyword. So the way it works is that you have a function, and this function can fail. If a function cannot fail, then you don't have to use try. io.async, for example, is a function that can never fail. So you are always able to run another function asynchronously. But if you want to call instead io.concurrent requires spinning up a new thread, or at least allocating some memory, and that can fail because you might be running out of those resources, either because you put a some kind of artificial limit to them, or because you just run out of system resources. So basically, try is a shortcut to say, well, if this function fails, then return immediately with that error. And it's not always the right thing that you want to do. Some other times instead you want to, I'm not using try, I'm using catch. I'm not doing anything with the error because, it's a long story why with cancel it's fine not to do that. But normally you can do catch and then you handle the error immediately. And sometimes you just can have an immediate fallback. So, hey Cypher, hello, good day. So what's the deal with try? The deal with try is just, I don't know, it's a language feature. It's there to support, it's just there to give you ways of expressing error handlings. So I don't know. Will there ever be a time where you won't have to use try? So yes, when you can do catch, for example, and you can handle the error immediately, which can happen. I never understood stackless coroutines. Without a stack, how do you know about your execution context and where to yield to? Yeah, that is an understandable question. The answer that you always find around, which doesn't give a full answer. Like I'll tell you the same thing right now, but usually what happens is that this answer doesn't connect all the dots. It just gives you a partial answer that and bridging that answer, that knowledge with how much you know, and like in order to have a full picture in mind. That is some extra work that unfortunately I feel like you have to get into compiler development, in my opinion, to fully understand. But what is the answer? The answer is the way stackless coroutines work. You know what? I'll try to give my spin to this answer instead of giving you the exact same one. Okay. Imagine that you have a function called process things. Function process things. And you're given a list of things. You're given a list of things. And I don't know, you have to upload a Boolean, right? So this is like the idea where you're processing things and you're searching for whether it contains one special thing or not. Just a random example. Okay, so how do you do this? Well, your function process things will be for things thing if thing dot who, whatever you're checking for a property, then return true. Otherwise, you continue and then you return false. Okay, that all seems to make sense, right? But what if you don't get to see all the things at once? You only get to see a subset of the things. Basically, people will give you things in chunks. So instead of these being all the things, there will be only some of the things. And you know what? Let's change this a little bit. Let's make it more complicated. Let's say that you have to compute a number, and this number is not just the number of things, but it's like the sum of some property. So I'm making this slightly more interesting so that I can show you later what I'm talking about. So you do var accumulator usize equals 0, and then you do accumulator plus equals thing dot foo count. And then you return accumulator. There we go. Okay, this is better. Okay, you have this function. Awesome. Let's say that they give it to you in chunks. So now things is not all the things, it's only some of the things. So how do you do this? Well, one way of doing it is like this. Const thing processor is a struct that contains the value of the accumulator, which defaults to 0. And actually, in our example here, that's all we need. So we can do this. And so now process things works like this, right? Function process things, it's in here. So function process things, processor takes p and then takes chunk. Right, and now we do for we do this, and this actually does not return new size. Maybe let's make it this void. And so here we do p dot accumulator, and we increase p dot accumulator. Okay, so what happened here? What happened here is that this was one shot. And there was no way of saving intermediate progress. This allows you to save intermediate progress where we don't exactly pay. We cannot pause in the middle of a chunk, but we can pause across different chunks. So this is the general idea of stackless coroutines. They turn code that you write this way into code that is behind the scenes structured kind of this way. The idea is that every time you write a normal function, but every time you have a suspension point, like you are reading from the network, you are sleeping, you are blocking on a lock, for example, every time you do one of these things, that turns into a stage in a state machine. So you have so behind the scenes, it becomes a struct, like an async frame is, roughly speaking, a struct that contains a bunch of fields that save the intermediate progress of your computation. And then when you resume that thing, you basically run a function that has different stages and that knows which stage to start from based on the saved state. this is a very simplified version of this idea, right? So what I'm describing here, it's more complicated than just having an accumulator. It's about having a state, multiple stages, potentially local variable state that needs to be saved. So this is how stackless coroutine work. And so they become basically data objects that you can call functions on and then internally know how to continue. That's what stackless coroutines, that's how they work. The problem is that if then you call a stackless coroutine function from somewhere, if that somewhere wants to be able to suspend, it wants to be able to await a result from that function, then the caller itself needs to be turned into a state machine that can be paused and resumed. And so that's what causes the viral nature of stackless coroutines. Stackful coroutines don't have this problem because this idea of pausing the execution and resuming it happens at the, let's say, hardware level, because the CPU has instructions. Well, even if it didn't have instructions, what you do basically is that you just save the entire state of the CPU, you put it somewhere in memory, and then when it's time to resume that thread, you restore every single register, and then continue from there, and including the program counter, like including which instruction to run next. So that works, but the key difference is that threads, like how can I say, the CPU scheduling a thread doesn't mean that the thread yields control. You know what? I'm getting myself into another Pandora's box explanation, so I'm gonna stop here. But this is the idea of stackless coroutines. Why not have IODO thread dynamically expand and shrink the thread pool? That is what most threaded work schedulers do to avoid deadlocks by thread pool starvation. That is another reasonable choice. Yeah, I would agree that this works. This idea of CPU count was introduced by Andrew. We need, in any case, a system that works, like we basically need also a way for this to work in single-threaded mode. So there has to be a way for async calls to succeed and to run correctly, even if you're running in single-threaded mode. And you know what's funny? I think here's the thing. Okay, here's let me show you this. So I re-enabled threaded and it deadlocks, but check this out. I'm gonna comment this out, and this now works. But I can do F. Is it dash F single threaded? It also works in single threaded mode. Let me also put this back so that you can see. In single threaded work mode, it works because it knows that it's not allowed to have a work queue in a sense. My point is that this is funny because this is Andrew while Andrew was implementing this, it wasn't immediately clear in his mind that CPU count equals 1 and single threaded are pretty much the same thing, at least when it comes to IO.async. And so he coded correctly the code path for F single threaded, but he did not code it correctly for non-single threaded with CPU count equals 1, which is kind of funny. And so just to be clear, why does this work with F single threaded? Because IO.async is defined to have the ability to choose to run the function immediately, not to queue up the task, but also to run it immediately. And that is the choice that it makes with F single threaded. With F single threaded, the code of IO.async for IO.threaded in F single threaded mode runs the function immediately. I think it should be something that we can see also in here. Let's see. Function async. Look, if it's single threaded, it immediately calls the function. I mean, you don't see, it's not maybe made it clear that the calling start is what constitutes calling the function, but I'll tell you that's what it is. So basically, Andrew needs to change this to kind of do also this if there's no other free thread. Anyway. Hey, Seifert. Yeah, the async stuff is available to use. It is not complete. It is a little bit buggy, but it's getting there. And it was merged in main because there's like enough stuff for people to play with. So it can be used. Yes. In any case, in my mind, this should be. I don't know how threaded should work. Maybe threaded should have. I think threaded should allow you to specify a hard limit on the number of threads that you make. I think that is reasonable. And it should be unset by default. So there should be no hard limit by default unless you opt into it. Then there should be, I think let's say CPU count is in like pool size, as in the number of threads that you want to always keep on once you need them, and that that you never shut down, and then you always keep around. And maybe that should be by default the number of CPUs that you have. Maybe. And then IOTA concurrent allows you to go above that number, while IOTA async does not. I should probably write this up on Zulip. I should suggest this as a way of doing it. There's like a bunch of discussion on Zulip. Async is complicated, man. It's really easy to lose sight of the big picture while implementing it. So, I feel like I have a good grasp of the high level picture, but for example, I'm not doing the implementation. Andrew is, and I know how to read implementation, but like I don't know every nook and cranny of it. And I'm sure there's things that he's doing clever things that I do not have a clue about. So I guess my point is that I feel like I can focus on the big picture because I don't have mental capacity spent on the details. That's I guess that's my trick. Yeah. By the way, Cypher, if you want to do something about async, a video or something, I don't know, just ping me, man. I'm happy to. You know what? I'm happy to both chat privately so that I can run you through the ideas. So that you don't have to piece everything together by yourself. And also, if you want to do something that you want to publish, some kind of podcasting, count me in. Just ping me. Okay, let's take a look at. By the way, I'm happy to chat more about anything async related. So if anybody has questions, feel free to ask. But what I will do now is go take a look at Super HTML, because I think people have found a bug and I haven't fixed it in like a week because I was busy traveling. Last thing that I will repeat before doing that is that on November 29th, there will be a Zig Day in Nuremberg for non-Germans, which is here. And I don't know, if you're in the area, come stop by. I'll be there. I think it's going to be a nice Zig Day. This is not the only one. There's also another one happening even sooner in Braunschweig. But this is a little bit further from, a little bit too far from me. And also, the reason why I'm attending the Nuremberg one is because I think it's going to be kind of it's in kind of a strategical position, because it's not too far from Munich, not too far. There's a city in here. I don't know. Stuttgart. There we go. Google hates Stuttgart, by the way. It likes to put the Baden-Württemberg text exactly where Stuttgart is, and so it hides the city name. It's so funny. They could put it like a little bit below, a little bit above. I don't know. It's like it's dead on Stuttgart. In any case, not too far from Stuttgart either, and it's actually not even too far from Frankfurt, in my opinion. Let me think. Oh, you know what's funny is that I was thinking that Stuttgart was probably the one the most further away from Nuremberg, but it's actually not. Munich has a straight line, so that's nice. On your house? You mean here in Baden-Württemberg? Dude, if you're in Baden-Württemberg, then it's not 2 hours and a half. Oh wait, no, unless you're far away from highways. North of Helbroom. Oh, north of Helbroom. Come on, man. That's not 2 hours and a half. Well, no. Okay, no. I'll take it back again. It might be 2 hours and a half, depending on how long it takes you to get onto the highway. I guess you will have to go down and then go here. Anyway. Far from Berlin. Yep. Sorry. Well, I mean, this is definitely far from Berlin. Braunschweig is not as far from Berlin. It's still kind of far from Berlin, though. Look, here's the thing. No Zig Day near you, become a Zig Day organizer. So sooner or later, hopefully, somebody in Berlin will pick up the torch, will pick up the Zig Day organizer mantle, and they'll do it. Until then, either you travel or you travel. Yeah, far from Asia. You know what? You know what, though? Far from Asia, but you know what's not far from Asia? Zig Day Osaka. How about that? Huh? How about that? Zig Day Osaka. It hasn't been announced yet, but it's gonna be, the first one is gonna be, I believe, the 15th of November, I think. In any case, it's gonna be in November. Either 15th or 19th. I don't remember which one of the two is a Saturday. I think the 15th, but I might be wrong. In any case, yep. So we have one there as well. I even heard there was somebody on Ziggit, the Zig forum, where somebody from Korea was going to travel to Osaka for the event. So yeah, there we go. Far from Bouvet Island. What the fuck is Bouvet Island? Okay, sure. Sure, we don't cover the whole world yet. Fair. But we have a bunch. So, in any case, I will be in the one in Nuremberg. So, if you can, consider joining. Okay, let's go check out Super HTML. Although, with regards to Nuremberg, I heard that there are Christmas markets right now. Well, there will be Christmas markets at the end of November. So I believe people were saying that tends to bump up the price of the cost of hotel rooms. So if you plan on coming and you need to get an hotel room, consider making a booking it sooner than later. Or, maybe come to the second one, which will hopefully be at a time where there are no Christmas markets. Let's see. So we have this erroneous diagnostics for daytime formatting. So this is bad. This is a problem that we need to fix. Assuming that the report is correct. I haven't checked it myself, but chances are that it's right. Like that people are complaining correctly, so we need to take a look. Oh shit. We are pointing at this dash, thinking that it needs to be a daytime separator. Who wrote this parser? I did. And I guess I programmed it wrong. So it seems, just at a glance, it seems that this is a correct report and a buggy implementation on my part. So maybe this is what we fix. So we should fix this, and then I'm gonna show you some Ziggy progress. Okay, how do we do it? Open the AI agent. No, I'm joking. We don't do that. We open the editor and we power our tears and sweat into the parser. That's how we do it. So, datetime attribute. What element? Time element. So time, we're looking for the time element. We see that I'm assuming that datetime is an attribute specific to this element and not a global attribute, which seems a reasonable assumption. We take a look at the parser code and maybe we try to reproduce. Repring seems simple. So time. What happened here? Datetime. We are stealing in's del validation function. That's fine. Well, we're not stealing it. We're not stealing the original one. We're copying it, so it's more like piracy. We're pirating this other implementation, but we also put it pub. So I guess we allow pirating. How does one build parser? Is it just tons of for loop for checking next bytes and switch case for specific character? Kind of, but that's not a parser. What you're describing is usually called the tokenizer. Some people call it also lexer. Those people are wrong. Lexing is a disgusting name for, I'm joking. I just call this stuff tokenizers. So the tokenizer looks like this. So, well, you know what? Let's ignore the HTML tokenizer because this guy is a beast. I'll briefly show you a different tokenizer for a different language, one that isn't too insane. So here's a tokenizer, and yep, that's exactly how you describe it. It's well, here I don't have formally a for loop, but I essentially have the same thing, and I keep switching on the character. This produces tokens. So for example, a variable name. Maybe you have a language that has plus equals the increment and the sign operator. So what you want to do normally is tokenize plus and equal as one token. So you basically turn collections of characters into tokens. And then the parser is a quote unquote for loop, but not on bytes, but on tokens instead. So you collect characters into tokens, and then you collect tokens into a tree, which usually is called the AST. And that's how you write a parser. And what I described is kind of universal. Like there are sometimes cases where you can get clever and do things in a different way. But with most languages, you kind of want to mimic this pattern because it works really, really, really well. Again, there are corner cases where it might be fine for you to say, I'm gonna build a AST directly from bytes. It works. You can do it. But most of the time, it's 100% a good idea to have a tokenizer. So, how can I say? If you want to get started with this stuff, do write tokenizers, do write parsers. Don't put these ideas into question. They're not universal. It's not the word of God, but they are a good idea. And then once you become proficient enough, then you can start putting them into discussion. My last recommendation is do not use parser generators. There are some tools that you give a grammar to, like you give them I forget what it's called, like the Bacchanals, BNF expressions. Well, in any case, EBNF. In any case, you give them a formal description of the grammar and Bacchanals. Thank you. You give them a formal definition of the grammar, and those things will poop out a parser for you. Don't use them; they suck. Or rather, you know what? Maybe there are times where it's fine to use something like this. But in modern times where you want to have a parser and you want to have decent error reporting and you want to have language servers, like where you want to have tooling around your language, write your own damn parser. Stop using that shit because those things give you subpar tuning at the end of the day. That has been my experience in any case. You know what? I would say once you know how to write parsers, then try them out. See, you will be in a position to judge their output, in a position that you won't be in if you just started today, right? So once you become proficient enough at writing parsers, try the automated stuff, see how far it gets you, and if it's good enough for your use case or not. But don't start with them because it's a crutch. It really is. It's just a crutch. Okay, so we're messing this up. So this is my code, by the way, that parses the date stuff, tells you that it needs a dash after year. Here must be at least 4 digits. So blah, 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 blah. You got a specific example of a problem that you've encountered? I'm curious to hear. Sure. I'll tell you 2 specific problems. One is I want control over the memory layout of my AST. So I want to decide what goes into a node or not. So if I go into here, Ziggy AST, notice how, first of all, my nodes are not heap allocated nodes with a root node that contains pointers to other nodes, and where everything is done through pointers. Instead, I put them in a slice, so they are contiguous memory. And then in a node, I have a location which is a start and end offset. So I know what span of text this node occupies. I have a parent index and a next index. They're not pointers, they're indices because I'm indexing into the slice. So 32-bit indices, not 64-bit pointers that point to random places in memory. I do not have anything for children. As you can see, I only have a reference to my parent and to the next node. If I wanted to be fully minimalistic, I could even get rid of this. Like you can build a usable AST with just a reference to the parent node. You don't need anything more than that. I keep also a next index because it allows me to basically navigate to the next sibling of this node without having to go through all the children of this node. So it's for performance. Because there are situations where I want, for example, to look at all the fields into a struct. This thing that you're looking at is my JSON replacement, and it has this concept of key value pairs, like JSON objects. Think of them as JSON objects. So I want maybe to navigate through all the keys all at once, like one after the other, and I don't care about their values, so I want to be able to skip those, and so that's why I have next index. And then I have the tag, which is an enum that tells me what type of node I'm looking at, and also look at what I'm doing. In this language, I have this notion, let me see if I can show it to you, of horizontal and vertical alignment, where basically, if you put this stuff into a object, you get vertical alignment. If you have a trailing comma, you take out the trailing comma, and that kind of requests horizontal alignment. So it's a nice thing that you can do with the auto formatter. It's an idea that exists in Zig, and I just took it and transferred it to my JSON replacement language. And so I want to write in the node whether this node is supposed to be a node that has a trailing, should be horizontal or vertical. I don't have to. I could avoid doing that entirely and then just recompute whether there's a trailing comma or not by doing, just a little bit of retokenization. Although it would be an annoying kind of retokenization, but here's what I do instead. Everything that can be horizontal or vertical, I use a separate enum value for. So basically, I'm folding this idea of whether this thing is horizontal or vertical. I'm folding it into the enum because, the enum is a byte. I have 255 of these values. So, I might as well use some of them instead of adding a Boolean field in here. And so these are things that I've made because I can write the AST to support my specific use case, my specific features that I want to have, and with an eye to performance. If you use, if you were to use Yak, one of those normal general tools for any normal parser generator, they don't have this stuff. I guess you can have them generate a parser for you, and then you can tweak it. But at that point, might as well just write it yourself. It's not a big of a deal. So that's the story. Back to HTML dates. Let's try to reproduce. So also this is inside of AP. Yeah, there we go. Look at this. We have the complaint. Okay. So what is happening? Four or more digits representing year, where year is greater than 0. A minus character, then 2 ASCII digits representing the month in the range 112. So if it's less than 4 digits, we say that the year must be at least 4 digits long. Then we parse it as a number, and we don't care about the value. We throw it away. Then we increase the position because we were stopped at the dash. So now we are looking at the month. Is that it? Yeah, this is the year. Now we're doing the month, missing 2-digit month. If parse int fails, we say not a valid month. Then for month, we do validate the output. We do +2. If we are done, if we're at the end, we're done. If there's a T. Where's my date? Oh my God, where's my day stuff? Well, okay, so well, there we go. Turns out that the bug is not even all that sophisticated. It's just us forgetting that we need also to process the dates before we can start looking at time. Ah, man. Okay, so we're basically here. We need to process the day. Okay, so how do we process the day? We need to look for a dash. So how do we do this? We can, so we are currently at the dash. So we need to check if the current one is the dash. So if date at position is different than a dash, then we need to return some kind of error. If it is a dash, then we do pause plus equals 1. And then we need to do the day parsing. So I guess we can copy basically, I think we can copy all of this. We just need to adapt it. And this is duplicated. Okay, let's see. If there is no dash, what do we say? We say this. Hello, hello. How am I doing? I'm doing well. I finally came back from Zigtoberfest. And now I'm fixing bugs in Super HTML. So missing dash after month. Then we increase, then we say if doing +2 gets us past the end of everything, we complain missing 2-digit day. Are you going to do the AUC this year? Oh yeah, I saw that it was halved. I'm not sure. I think the answer is most probably no, because I have other stuff to do that I think is more pressing and more interesting than AOC, strictly from the perspective of Zig. Not saying that AOC is not interesting. I do think that AOC is interesting and entertaining in a general sense. But I personally always believed that AOC is not the best. By the way, for people who don't know what that is, that's Advent of Code. So in my opinion, Advent of Code is not the best way to learn Zig. It's a reasonable way, and if you like AOC and you want to do AOC in Zig, obviously you can do it and you can have a good time. But from the perspective of me spending time to do things that hopefully can teach as much as possible to the people watching, AOC is suboptimal. The reason for this is because in AOC, every time you have an exercise, your goal is to get an answer. Your goal is to do some number crunching or so some data processing that leads you to an answer that you paste into the website. And if correct, you unlock the subsequent exercise, which is great. What is the problem though? The problem is that you're writing one-off scripts where you don't really care about what happens to memory management. You don't really care about doing handling correctly corner cases. The input that you get from AOC is always perfectly correct and valid. Like you never get malformed inputs from AOC where you have to write a parser that has to detect that. You don't even care. So hey Matt, hello. So long story short, with AOC, you're not doing software engineering. You're doing data science, which is fine. It's just that Zig is a better software engineering language than it is a data science language. So you can do it, and there are ways of having a good time with Zig doing AOC. But at the moment, I have things to work on that, in my opinion, are better suited than AOC, and so I will prioritize those. That's the full story. I've tried doing AOC in new languages 4 or 5 years now, and I just don't recommend it if your goal is to learn a new language. I think you'd better off building a small project in that language. Yeah, I think that the core problem is what I expressed earlier. AOC is a data sciencey thing. It's not a software engineering thing. It's very interesting and it's cool. And I would say in some ways it straddles the line when, especially like the later exercises where you have to build like a virtual machine and run instructions. That kind of straddles the line. But the fact that you're always writing one-off scripts where you don't have to worry about parsing errors or like handling errors at all. It makes it more of a data sciencey thing than a software engineering thing. And Zig really shines when what you have to do is software engineering rather than data science. So that's it. But again, that does not mean that it should stop you from doing AOC if that's what you want to do. Absolutely. Okay, so missing 2-digit day, we increase, we parse a number, and we say not a valid day. Then we check the number is, if the number is lower than 1, that's a problem. And if the number, but it's not month, this is going to be day. If day is lower than 1, or greater than 31, then we complain. Month out of range, well, day out of range. Must be between 1 and 31. We never get 32, right? We only get 29 in February, so this should be it. And so we increase by 2, and that puts us at the date level. I see, Matt, the picture that you sent me. Nice. Enjoy coffee also for me. Oh, wait, you are. Oh, shit. I know where you are. Right. Say hi to Specs for me. And I don't know. Also, congratulations. And yeah, nice. Okay, let's see if we fix our problem with Super HTML. So make a release. We should probably run our tests. And we should also double check the spec, because can people omit days, for example? If people can omit days in a date, then we need to take care of that. Although if they could, we probably would have that logic already. Okay, there we go. That led us to the actual, to maybe an actually correct error. Let's see, invalid. So this all went well. Let me just troubleshoot this. Invalid missing dash after month. Oh, interesting. We're not pointing it there. Okay, it's a bit inconsistent what we report, but it's fine. This can be improved in the future. So invalid value for this attribute missing time must be HHMMSS, optionally followed by fractional seconds. I think that it's not mandatory for it to be there. Wait, what? Time has to be there? MDN is saying, well, MDN is providing a date also with seconds. Oh shit, this one is not. Well, to the spec. Yeah, don't worry, Matt. We got you covered. Well, I mean, there's some. I don't have 100% coverage yet, but I have good coverage, like 80+% of all the strings that you can put that can be validated. And what's remaining is mostly either JavaScript, like JavaScript expressions, or CSS expressions. And I'll get to those. So yeah, we're getting there. Okay, let's see what this spec says. Because again, why are we looking at this and not at MDN? Because the spec is the authoritative source. MDN is generally correct and clearer, more easier to understand, but they are not the authoritative source. I generally prefer the style lower than or equal, and close on this side, open on this side. I mean, I think that's fine. Although with this stuff, it seems fairly natural, right? With this approach. Because it allows you to put 1 and 31. Well, in any case. Oh, did you also have an end? Oh, you had an end. Okay. It's fine. Yeah. Okay, so holy shit. Okay, so check this out. So a month string, that is correct. Oh, wait. A datetime value of a time attribute is value of the datetime content attribute if it has one. Otherwise, child text content of the time attribute, the datetime value of a time element must match one of the following syntaxes. So this is about what you can put in there. And that's fine. But what about what you can put inside of datetime? So is the datetime attribute the same exact thing You know what? Let me take a short detour, because if you remember, we were looking at these things from Incendel. Let's take a look at what it says here about datetime. A string is a valid date, vaguer moments in time. A string is a valid date time string with optional time if it's also one of the following: a valid date string, a valid global date and time string. Okay, so your fourth build. What? Oh, it's because you saw that blog post from Rat Factor. Hmm. See, I was very proud of myself when I found an extra semicolon separator in a 300 megabyte CSV file that made DuckDB ingestion trip online something something. Mm-hmm. DuckDB is a great piece of software, by the way. Highly recommended. It's the SQLite of all of databases. Yeah, I get that this is the general impression. Although DuckDB people like C++ a little bit too much. That's my complaint. which doesn't say much actually. It says nothing about the quality of the software whatsoever. It's just a random complaint. I've been at their office. They have a very nice office in nearby Amsterdam. I don't know if it's Amsterdam proper or a nearby town, I forget, but yeah, they're in the Netherlands, and they have a decent cafeteria. I think it's a university campus type of thing, so there's like I'm guessing there's a bunch of offices for different research groups, so they occupy one of those offices. They have it's interesting because they are kind of like a startup in a sense when it comes to the amenities, at least when I was there. How decent is decent? It's decent from a picky Italian perspective. So it's better than the cafeteria that I had in my university here in Italy, without a doubt. Yeah, so they had a bunch of amenities in their office. I remember when we were there that we could drink different stuff. The space is also nice. Overall, I remember also thinking that they have a nice space. So sorry, I don't know that what I just said doesn't say much. But what were you doing there? I was sneaking some Zig code into their code base without them noticing. Camouflaged. No, they hosted an event. They hosted an event at their office with also Tiger Beetle, and I gave a talk called. I gave a talk titled "Rocking the Open Source Boat." Maybe I can show you. And I'm not going to show you the full talk. It's also old. Keep that in mind. I just want to show you the. Yeah, there we go. So the joke was, okay, so for people who are not native English speakers, just so that we are all on the same page, rocking the boat is a way of saying, being a bit of a troublemaker, being somebody who is challenging status quo. That can be meant with a more positive or negative connotation, depending on the context. But here I'm making a wordplay where the idea is that we're doing that, but we're also, playing rock. And this was back where was at a time where people weren't yet convinced about the future of Zig as they are today, which is not guaranteed still, but at the time it was still earlier days. And so I was just I guess ranting on some quotes like, you have to be affiliated to a big tech company to make a successful programming language. That is a thing that has been written, that was written quite a few times on social media when people were saying we're worried about the future of, people were saying that Zig was never going to become successful because we do not have a big tech company baking us. But guess they were proven wrong up until now. So here I talk about how the Zig Software Foundation is structured, talk about Uber, talk about some ideas behind Zig, some of the ecosystem, MicroZig. I also think that when I did this presentation, MicroZig had just, it was fairly recent that they had come up with this new logo, which I think is really cool. Like just a chip with the Zap emoji. So also, it was also nice to display that. And yeah, I guess let's see. You can't be competitive without LLVM, and you will never be able to replace LLVM. And by the way, this was at the start of the custom backends work, which, by the way, you're all enjoying now. Well, maybe not all of you. For example, people who are on ARM, macOS, I believe our backend is not yet fully, it's not yet operational. Like it cannot be used yet for the day-to-day stuff. But x86 Linux for sure. So you can use that. That's what you get by default now if you make a debug build of a program with Zig. So we have debug builds. Let's see, what other thing am I complaining about? Oh, this is, I'll skip this. It's fine. Is there another thing that I'm, like another image that I'm showing? No, I'm just complaining about open source, I think, at this point. But I haven't tied it yet to another big image. Let's see. Oh, and then I'm presenting software you can love. Okay. So, yeah, here I'm complaining about, yeah, this is the database freedom thing. All the nagging that comes also from Firefox. I guess basically my point is that we have a radically different approach to open source software compared to what came before us, including big names like Mozilla. Anyway. You work at the ZSF because you knew you would get to say "I told you so" endlessly. Man, you know what? I will complain, and I will say that being able to say "I told you" it is something that does partially fuel me. I try to be gracious about it. I try to not overdo it, but man. When I get to say it, it feels good for sure. Hello, Calder. Anyway, so that's what I was doing there. I also got a t-shirt from the event. So here's what I think is going on in HTML world. I think that what I did was think that I could repurpose the datetime attribute. So here's my mistake. My mistake was thinking that here they were defining what the datetime attribute is supposed to be in a more global manner, like meaning that the definition of datetime would have to be the same. So also in the other element inside of time. But unfortunately, no, what's happening is that, so in insert and delete, datetime has to be a valid date string with optional time, which we don't do correctly either. So we need to make sure that we support the idea that time is optional. And then we need to decouple this implementation from the one used in time, because time uses a more flexible type of datetime syntax. Well, it allows you to specify only the month, etc., etc. Is Zin using STD's HTTP server? The answer is yes, but I can even show you how to check this yourself. So Zin inside of source has a directory called CLI that has all the CLI commands stuff, and serve has its own subdirectory, its own name, file name plus subdirectory, and I use the HTTP server WebSocket implementation as well. So there's the watch, blah 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 blah. Server is an implementation down here. Channel server event. This is all my custom code, but TCP server.accept handle connection. There we go. std HTTP server init. So yeah, I'm indeed using for the development server. For the local development server, I'm using Zig's HTTP server. Yeah. Did they run out of spreadsheet in Germany, so you return to Italy? Yeah, pretty much. I visited some friends in Stuttgart. We went around the city. We also visited. There's a park on a hill with a graveyard in it, which was very nice. It had a very good look, especially like autumn look. It was cool. Leaves everywhere. Is Zig new IOTA threaded not in the STD docs? I don't see it anywhere, or is it unreleased? I don't know about the docs. The latest master branch build does contain it. People were saying that there's a build that contains it. If you build from the head commit, the latest commit, you will get IOTA threaded. Whether that shows up in the docs or not, I mean, it should. If it doesn't, I don't know why it does not, but the code is there. Yeah, it's not depending on any third-party web framework. Keep in mind also that I don't need a web framework because I really need only the basics. I'm serving static files. So, well, I'm serving static files plus one extra little bit of spice because there's a JavaScript file that gets injected into your templates by the web server. When you're running in the web in the development server, and that is used to have a WebSocket connection so that whenever a file changes on disk, we rebuild, and whenever the page that you're looking at has been rebuilt, the JavaScript knows that it needs to reload the page. That's the extra bit of spice. Okay, so I think that we did a good job because we've done month, we've done day. I think that day should also be enclosed in a block. There we go. Yeah, I think it took a while it takes a while for stuff to so once stuff gets merged, then there's a process that takes about a day before it shows up on the download page, because we have to build the stuff for every single target, run tests and everything, and that takes a while. So let's make the time optional. Oh, you know what? Actually, that's on us. You see this? This is actually wrong. We were doing it correctly because previously, well, we were skipping day, but we were saying, okay, well, if we're done, then we're good. Hey, Calder, thank you for the Prime sub. Thank you very much. So we were doing this correctly. So this check needs to be moved down here. We only need to make sure that we don't go out of bounds here because we are not checking for that. So we should do it, I think, like this. We should do the check and then we complain. Or we can even do it like this. Check this out. There we go. Okay, so now it doesn't complain. With the T complains. Missing time. So it wants seconds as well. But again, we're not implementing, even though I'm testing with the datetime attribute inside of time, because right now the same validation function is wired on both elements. What I'm fixing is the implementation for the implementation specific to ins and del. Parse the date or time string algorithm. If that does not return a date or a global date and time, then the modification has no associated timestamp. Okay, so this is the algorithm that we were looking at. It will return either a date, a time, a global date and time, or nothing. Oh, Jesus Christ. So I don't think I'm following this implementation one-to-one. I'm not doing one implementation that returns multiple different things, so that's fine. Maybe I should. Let's take a look at, let's go back to time. So the datetime attribute might be present. If it's present, its value must be a representation of the element's contents in a machine-readable format. Okay. So my interpretation of this spec is that basically all these things, like everything that we are seeing here, provided as an example, must be supported by the datetime attribute. Maybe. A valid week string. Jesus Christ. A valid duration string. What? Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Here's the algorithm. The machine-readable equivalent of the element's contents must be obtained from the element's datetime value by using the following algorithm. Also, what is this thing? Oh, okay. Clicking that link is not really useful, but fine. Okay. If parsing a month string from the element's datetime value returns a month, that is the machine-readable equivalent return. Date, that is the machine-readable return. A yearless date. No, man. Oh, no. Oh, no. What the fuck is a yearless date? Is that a Wheel of Time reference? Is that like the date of the final battle that happens every cycle? Oh, man. If parsing the time string from the element's datetime value returns a time, okay, that's fine. Datetime value. Oh my god. Yeah, I heard Wheel of Time. I did say Wheel of Time. Sorry, Matt. Are you thinking about the last battle? Yeah, every day, you know. It's like Rome. I have to say, man, that series is I didn't read the books. I watched the series, but I kind of was watching it thinking, man, what are they gonna mess up next? Because I found that the series had like such bad dialogue sometimes. Like some exchanges between characters made no sense. Also, the teenagers are like so, I don't know, obnoxious. And also the weird like love triangle between the guy, like the dragon, I forget the other woman's name, and then the evil one. I don't know, it's so weird. But here's the funny thing. While I was thinking of that, man, I don't know, this is not, some things are not great. Then every single person that I met that has read the book um, says, look, the books are worse. The books are worse than the series. So, especially the old books. Yeah. Yeah, Matt is the first one that introduced me to this story. Yeah, the show is executed very well compared to the books. Jesus Christ. And the series is still an Amazon Basics series, right? That love triangle becomes a love octogram before long. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't remember. It got canceled. Oh, rip. Well, I don't know. I don't remember precisely, but it was like there were some details about like this whole triangle at the end of the series where um sorry, I don't remember enough of the details. I just thought that some of the exchanges that they were having was like full-blown gaslighting that made no sense. And then there's, oh man, I just remembered. And then there's this bad guy that shows up, like he teleports into their cave, wherever they were camped at. I don't remember, like somewhere in the desert. And like this guy shows up through a portal and then just immediately dies. It's like that was also a little bit funny. Although I'm imagining that this is more of a artifact of the TV series and timings in a TV series rather than what happened in the book. So this thing is a nightmare. This thing is really a nightmare. So we need to do some work to support this. Let's see where we are at with issues, because we do have some issues, I think, even dedicated to daytime. I think we know that we don't support all of daytime. Do we not? Oh no, we did forget to point that out. So I think the correct solution is to do what the spec suggests, which is to have one implementation that knows how to parse all these segments. And then, although, you know what? No, I take this back. I mean, maybe we should have some of that, but I think that we should keep the implementation for insert and delete separate, because that one has a fairly rigid structure. Like that one does not allow for all the other weird combinations. So I think it's fine for that one to give you more. The reason why I'm saying this is that by keeping the implementation separate, we can ensure that insert and delete, daytime inside of insert and delete, gives you better error reporting, telling you exactly what it is that's missing. And by having a dedicated implementation, we can be more precise than we would be otherwise by having a general one. That said, it seems that man, there are so many things that, like, what's a yearless date, man? How? A yearless date consists of a Gregorian month and a day within that month, but with no associated year. Optionally, 2 minus characters. Okay. 2 ASCII digits representing the month, then a dash, and the day. Oh my god. So if you make the mistake of writing the year with 2 digits, then it will start being interpreted as a month. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the dash dash is fine, but these are optional, so you can even omit them, which is funny. In other words, if the month is 02, meaning February, then the day can be 29. Oh, where max day is the number of days in the month, and any arbitrary leap year. So they also want you to check for this. I'm not sure if we had to check for this in the other implementation, but maybe it was me not putting enough care. Okay, you know what? I think I'm not gonna do this now, though. I'll consider whether to open an issue for this or to do it myself, but I'm not gonna do it on stream. But the problem is clear, right? So we fixed a mistake in the other implementation, which is good. But to support correctly all the variations of time, there's just a list of things that we need to go through. So I think in any case that this has really just fallen through the cracks because we don't even support, I think, validating the contents. Like if I look at this, let's go back to time. Validating, what do we do with validating the content? We must have a to do here. I'm fairly sure. Text only is text only. Time element that does not have a datetime content attribute must not have any element descendants. So if it does have datetime, then you can put whatever you want in it. Otherwise, it can only have text. So if text only, yeah, but you see, if it's text, then we say nothing. So here we're missing some validation. Basically, this is actually like this. And also, I think we should split them up. There you go. So this is where we also need to validate the text. And I think that text validation has to be the same. So my suspicion is that whatever we implement once, we want to run twice. Well, twice. I mean, we want to run in both contexts. Okay. Well, we learned. So we can at least reply to the issue. So the parser the parser code currently using was missing the code necessary to parse days. But on top of that, comma. Top of that, it was shared between time and ins del Uh, the fix should be out next release. There we go. Okay, I think this is fair. I'll look into it. I won't bore people on stream. I mean, I know that I bore you guys already. So I'm not saying that I'm not gonna bore you. I'm just not gonna bore you with that. Let's just put it that way. So this was pretty much the only big issue that was open in Super HTML. Or rather, there's also this one, which is fair. Basically, if you have some fancy layout in your JSON stuff, and then you auto format with Super HTML, you don't get good auto formatting, unfortunately, and that sucks. But at the same time, I know that I have a like simplistic approach to this stuff. So, long story short, we need a JavaScript parser. We need a JavaScript parser. So we'll get there. This is not like a big deal. Also, we can add a workaround. I think that I should implement this workaround as a temporary stopgap before we get a full parser. There's a CLib for it for sure, but I don't want that. I want my parsers. I want to make my parsers myself, and I want them to be performant, and I want them to be done the way I like them. So yeah, I'm waiting to see what Zig is. Why are you waiting? Rune relay, sorry. Go to ziglang.org and check it out for yourself. You can go to the learn section. You can find more learning materials. You can, once you're convinced that you want to try it out, you can click on getting started, which roughly speaking is just download the executable and run it, more or less. Well, add it in path, and that's it. And yeah, and you can see for yourself. If you have any specific question, then I can answer those. What does Zig replace? Why does it have to replace anything necessarily? It's a systems level programming language. So if you are using another systems level programming language, it can replace that. If you use higher level programming languages, you can still replace them with Zig if you want. So I don't know. It's a general purpose programming language. So it can program a lot of machines. And if you are previously doing it with another language and you, for some reason, decide to switch to Zig, then it can replace all of those. Editors should be able to use their parsers for another language embedded in a file. That can happen with syntax highlighting. So three-seater, like you can create a three-seater grammar that knows that a given context is JavaScript, and it can delegate then the job of parsing that section and syntax highlighting it to a different three-seater grammar. Unfortunately, language servers don't really have this feature. There is something similar that you can pull off in VS Code specifically if you use not the LSP stuff, but like general extension logic. So you can kind of pull that off. But the general problem still remains. And also, given what Super HTML is, it is fine. It is necessary, I think, for us to have a JSON. I keep saying JSON, a JavaScript parser, for two reasons. One is that we need to be able to parse syntax inside of, on-click attributes, for example, because we need to be able to tell you when you're putting wrong syntax in there. And then the second idea is that Super HTML is a I wrote it here. Let me bring it up from the README. The second point is that Super HTML has this like normalized view of your source code, kind of like ZigFMT normalizes your Zig code. And so I even suggest to people to put Super HTML FMT check in CI so that you know that you only commit files that have normalized formatting through Super HTML FMT. Why would you want to do this? Because I guess two reasons. One is that you just adopt it as a standard so that everything becomes easier to read for people, because there's always standard, like code is formatted in a standardized manner. So it's easier just to pattern match visually. But the second reason is that that way you avoid diffs where the diff is only changing the auto formatting and somebody has sneaked in a tab where they shouldn't have, or spaces where they shouldn't have. And now you have all this weirdo stuff going on, or like Windows style new lines, whatever the heck. And those things tend to pollute commits if you have developers that are like a little bit imprecise with their tooling. And so Super HTML FMT can normalize all this stuff. But for that to be true, then it also needs to provide a normalized formatting also for JavaScript. So that's the idea. Okay. So hopefully we can make this. Don't worry, X2, I'm not going yet. I'll be around a little bit more. I'm just closing the Super HTML section, let's say. Gonna read more into this language? Sure, feel free. I'm learning. Sorry, I just saw your other message. I'm learning C myself in embedded systems. Yep, it's in the same ballpark as C. I just noticed there is no Zigdev room at FOSDEM. Are you going to attend? No, I don't think I will. So last year, some people tried to organize a Zig dev room. I think it was supposed to be a Zig/Neem dev room, although I think it was probably not going to be called like specifically about either language. It was just going to be like maybe a new upcoming programming languages dev room. Maybe, I don't remember all the details, but it turned out that there was not a lot of enthusiasm for FOSDEM on the Zig side. Some people in the Zig community have attended Zig FOSDEM that year also as well, but nobody really wanted to go through the work of organizing a dev room. I personally have done that once, and I found the experience traumatizing. I profoundly disagree with the way that that FOSDEM handles communication. Yeah, the mailing lists were insane. I cannot understand how people would do that to themselves. It's like somebody choosing voluntarily to just, I don't know, stick on, make LinkedIn the main social network they scroll. Don't get me wrong, all social networks suck. But LinkedIn sucks in a special way. And I can understand people that have to use LinkedIn. I do not understand people that want to use LinkedIn. I think that's insane. And in a not the same, but like comparable manner, I do not understand how the organizers of FOSDEM were fine with that insane amount of email spam and unstructured communication, and like a bajillion people dropped into the same mailing list, everybody chirping about their issues, which are, understandable, but like not everybody else in the entire thread needs to be pinged about one random dude's problems. So that there should be like some kind of like structure. There was none. It was absolutely insane. So I decided that was the last time, first and last time I would attempt to interface with FOSDEM. So I'm out, and I don't know, some other people maybe would be interested in, but man, I don't know. Seifert, I used to work at LinkedIn. Oh no. It was a great company with a great mission, but I feel like modern social media has sort of ruined it. The problem in my mind with LinkedIn as a user, like, I don't think that LinkedIn is necessarily, technically problematic. It is what it is. But as a user, the problem is that it's corpo wave. Like, people post random shit that is meant to sound, I don't know, uplifting for a wage slave. I don't even know how else to put it. It's like corpo wave. I think corpo wave is the best one word description, right? So and then there's so much cringe stuff in there. Like, it's the users. The users are like the problem of LinkedIn. It reminds me, I think there was this thing where, like, oh, I was in an incident, and sorry, like, there was some kind of car crash, and like my girlfriend was stuck in the back and she couldn't get out, so I called an ambulance and like firemen, and as I was doing the call, I wondered, how do they reroute calls and handle that much traffic at a national level, which prompted me to think about a distributed architecture that would be able to handle this scale of activity. There is stuff like this for real on LinkedIn. Like, I'm not making a joke. I have read it. There's one that was sent to me earlier today. I'm not going to show it because I think it's in Italian, but like, I'll bring up the screenshot because it was cracking me up. So, mistakes that people make on at the workplace, and it's like this image that says, "Being too honest. Honesty is a good thing, but tactical honesty is better." The fuck is tactical honesty? I mean, sure, there are things that you should and should not say in the workplace, understandably. But the fuck is tactical honesty? There's so much cringe on that site, man. It's horrible. It used to be less about that kind of stuff and more about creating economic opportunity. Yeah. No, I get it. I totally get it. It's just that, I don't know. I don't see that much anymore. Or rather, definitely not in the content. People do find job opportunities through LinkedIn, I guess. But yeah, the content is bad. I was eating my sandwich today when I spilled mayonnaise on myself. Here's what it taught me about B2B sales. Yeah, that stuff. But you know what? This isn't even the worst. I feel like there's also, over time, it created like a cultural bubble where even the style that people use to write their blog posts, well, their articles, is just inherently bad. Like, the language of the medium has become corpo wave. I don't know. This is just not for me. Just like the mailing list, the FOSDEM mailing list, those are not for me either. Definitely. Okay, what can I show you about Ziggy? let me see. So let's put Super HTML on pause for a moment. Let me show you about what I have going on with Ziggy. So I worked on the schema language, and I can show you maybe some of the new syntax that you have never seen. Probably, to be clear, it's nothing mind blowing, but here's the idea. So I'm gonna make the font super big so everybody can enjoy it. Here's the idea. This up here is the root expression. So when you create a schema, you're saying, okay, what is the top level expression that documents have? The reason why you specify this like kind of twice, like you have to explicitly say what it is because it can be, for example, something like this. It can be an optional foo. So it can be either a foo struct or null, or it can be a slice of foo. So, so that means that the Ziggy document, so this is the schema, right? But the document itself, I'm gonna use this space down here to say what a document that fulfills the schema looks like. It will be like a top level slice, well, array, whatever you want to call it, and then it will contain a 0 or more foo. So there will be more of these guys. They should have obviously the correct content. I'm just using ... as a placeholder, but it will be like this. And so if instead, so the point is that the top level is not necessarily always a struct. It can be something else. Then here's also what I've introduced. So I've introduced unions as proper definitions. Previously, you could kind of create unions using an expression syntax. Now you properly define them. You properly define each case. These are called unions, but they are like tagged unions for us in like Zig speak. The reason why there is no enum syntax is because in Ziggy a union that is not tagged doesn't make much sense. So so all unions are implicitly tagged. Or I'll say this: it does not make much sense when it comes to the textual representation of documents. We'll tackle binary representation, like a binary format for these things, because I think that, for example, it would be nice that you have one schema language that you can use for text files when it's like configuration or like documents that are not like too big, they don't need to be performant. But for example, if you're doing over-the-wire communication, like you're sending data over a socket, you probably shouldn't be sending the textual representation. You should be sending the binary representation. And so once we get into the binary representation territory, maybe we'll have reason to add syntax to the schema format to support things that we want to do in the binary representation. But for now, that's not a thing we worry about. So, so this is it. And here also, here, by the way, you see that also I have a working LSP that's giving me showing me parsing errors. So there's also a new thing that we can do, which is so there's the slice sigil. We've already seen it, so you can do it this way, kinda. But you can also do. Oh, also look at this. I showed this already at Zig Days, but maybe I haven't shown this online yet. So struct foo loops forever because it has a field that contains itself. And so the LSP tells you, look, this struct is part of an infinite loop, and this is the field that leads to a type that is part of an infinite loop, which happens to be the type itself. If you put optional, then it's not a loop anymore, because you have the option to nest a little bit and then say null, so it's not infinite. Same if it's a slice. This also works across like unions. Well, kinda or rather it does, but for example, if I do here buzz and I do foo, this is not an infinite loop, because you can, as you loop, you always have the option of choosing any of the other cases of this union, and then that's where it ends. But if I were to comment them out, then now bar is part of an infinite loop. And the reason why we don't highlight fields for unions is because for a union to be part of an infinite loop, every single field needs to lead to an infinite loop. So there's no point in highlighting them. They all have to lead to infinite loops. So there's the idea. Last thing that I wanted to show, this is the piece de la resistance, in a sense. It's the nicest improvement that I made. Or rather, this loop detection system is pretty good. I'm happy to have it. It's not, groundbreaking. Although I do think that I don't think that JSON schema has that. I think the JSON schema just has tooling that blows up when you have something like that. Like by mistake, you create an infinite loop, and so basically the tooling will never be able to fulfill the type, and so something at some point explodes one way or another. But here we have this just sprinkle of statical analysis that recognizes this case. Here's another thing. So we have syntax. We have new syntax for maps. As a recap, in Ziggin, structs have this syntax. But then there's also maps. Maps are basically JSON objects. Why the difference? Why have both? The answer is that we have this double syntax because we want to be able to communicate to the user when something is completely dynamic and kind of up to the user versus when something follows a schema. So this syntax struct is what you define here. So this would be, banana. These are like, well, their value would need to be swapped around to make sense with this definition because, well, no, actually, this above is an int, the one below is a union. In any case, when you have a proper struct, you use this syntax. And then you use this when you want basically something that we call, or I'm going to call a dictionary. We used to call them maps, but I think it's a good idea to switch to the terminology, to the term dictionary. So we used to do this. Like, for example, if you wanted a map of something, like a map of bars, we would do it like this. But this syntax is gone. And I replaced it. So this syntax is gone also because we were doing this. And we were also doing, for us, slices were like this. They were like wrapping the type. So this basically would have been in the past a slice or an array of maps that have bar as the value of each key. So the keys are strings, but they are dynamic, and the values are always instances of bar. Now slice is like this, and map also doesn't look like this anymore. It actually looks like this. Well, again, we also call them dictionaries, but that's the new sigil. So, ta-da! I think it's a good sigil because it visually represents really well what the thing is supposed to be. I have yet to see it being used. I really have not. I think maybe people have this as a symbol. Like sometimes you have like icons in an editor where they need to represent JSON, and maybe they do have curlies. I don't know if they have the colon inside the curlies, but I don't think I invented this sigil. That said, I have yet to see it in a schema language, and I think it's very elegant. I like it a lot. So we now have this thing. Also, are dictionaries string keyed only? Yeah, correct. This is both the case when people say dictionary. Like when you say dictionary, you're talking about a string hash map where the key is a string. And that tends to be the main differentiator between dictionary and a generic map. There might be other differences that one might consider part of the definition or not, but this is like the core for sure. What else? I don't know. That's mainly it. How about putting in a value bar? No, I don't want to put I don't want to nest these things. One very nice property of having them be prefixes is that you read them left to right. Not only you read them left to right, but you tokenize them left to right, and there is no nesting. If I put bar inside of here, then a correct expression needs to be represented as nested nodes one way or another. And with this, it's not necessary because I recognize this as a token. I recognize this as a token, and I recognize this as a token, and that's it. So this works really, really well. So and it's also like a kind of a Ziggy approach because Zig does have all these qualifiers as prefixes. So yeah. Okay, so what else have I got? What I got is schema checking. So okay, so this is what I have here as my. I reloaded these files because I pulled them from a branch and they were overridden on disk. So I have foo, which is a struct that contains a boolean, a dictionary with boolean fields, and then another nested struct that contains a field that has another map with boolean integers, and I think. Well, let me build the code. There we go. Missing field box. Okay. So far so good, right? Because we have bar, which is a boolean. Also, look at the go to definition. Like I do go to definition on the value, and it points me at the value thing. I do go to definition on the name, and it highlights the full line. I can do also go to definition, I think, on key names, and it highlights this type here, which I think it's pretty cool. So this is all fine. And now Bax is a struct that contains hooks and a dictionary of numbers. Let's see if we can do that correctly. So what if I do this? There's a schema mismatch. Oh, it also complains that we're missing field cooks. It's funny. That should not happen. Maybe. In any case, it does tell me that's a schema mismatch. We can also do it here. Like if I put 10 here, we get a schema mismatch, and we also get a schema mismatch in here. So that's cool. Okay. So we have cooks. Let's typo it on purpose. Okay, it complains that we're missing the field cooks, but it's not complaining that that field is wrong. So that's bad. That's something I need to fix. Oh no, wait a second. Oh no, this is complaining about cooks no matter what, huh? Oh no. Wait, is this it? This is wrong, but no, it just complains about field cooks. Okay, so long story short, I have bugs, but I do have schema checking. Like I'm working on it. So I have some. I wrote some. Just the beginning of test coverage for these schema checking, and have you considered allowing top level lists without square brackets as well as objects? No, because it becomes a little bit ambiguous. So the parsing becomes ambiguous, the tuning needs to be more complicated, and in case of syntax errors, the errors become more confusing because it's not immediately clear which one of the two cases should be in the presence of certain syntax errors. So the top level thing, like you can only omit curlies for structs. That's the rule. Would you mind if I had a mind melt? Because I'm hoping by saying it enough times, this stupid sounding but apparently ridiculously important concept sticks in my brain. I'll give you a hint. Quaternions. I don't know, man. You want quaternions? in Zig. I don't know. Oh, you want quaternions as a data type in Ziggy? I mean, a quaternion, what is that? Like an array of 4 numbers. So that's it. You can use that. So in any case, I still have I still have some bugs. But I'm working on schema checking, and once I have all schema checking implemented without bugs, I don't know. I think it might even be almost time to push to main branch. I will need also to. I think I have all the CLI tools that have regressed, so or at least mostly regressed. So I need also to make sure to fix them. I also have a hacky way of loading the schema file inside the LSP. And unfortunately, the language server protocol doesn't give us a good way of having schema stuff work nicely. Actually, maybe they do have something. I don't know. I'll need to double check. But in any case, there is some work to be done. We're not quite there yet. But once this is implemented, Z will be in a pretty decent place. And I think that the next thing that I will do at that point is pull all the newest changes into Zin and start using Ziggy schemas to enforce, to make sure that the public interfaces, things that Zin is supposed to expose in a certain way actually matches what we say. For example, right now, I believe that in the schema language in the schema file that I claim is what we use for the front matter, we allow dates to be optional. But in reality, our implementation does not allow dates to be optional. So that is one small lie that we have in our documentation right now. And my plan is to, stop lying by wiring in the tooling and correctly validate that our structs match the schema, roughly speaking. So this is the idea. This is the idea indeed. So I think this is it. Quaternions are also apparently a good way to make a turret point at a cursor. Yeah, at least to me, this is not news. I know that quaternions are used for rotation of stuff. Sure. Anyway, this is it, everybody. Yeah, sorry, first stream in a while, so I'm gonna take it easy. 2 hours and a half. That's gonna be enough for today. But yeah, I'm gonna resume. Hopefully, I'll be able to do some of the most boring work on my own, and I'll bore you less on stream. But this is it. So I don't know. Go have fun. Write software you can love. Apply system thinking. See you at a Zig Day if you happen to be a Zig Day where I'm also present. And yeah.